How's it going? Hope everyone's doing well today. It's Chris. I'm here to read and discuss comics. This is going to be another new reader recap. I've got a couple issues here. 3 of these issues I have read already. So we've got the Adventures of Superman, Book of L, issue 1. This is from a couple weeks ago. To be honest, I think each of these are from a couple weeks ago, but Superman, we got X-Men Age of Revelation issue 0, I read this, and the Immortal Thor issue 1, I read this one as well. So I'll be discussing each of these, and then right here I've got 2 issues that I will be reading now and discussing as well. So we've got the first issue of Racer X, which I'm very excited for, and the second issue of Superman, the Kryptonite Spectrum, which another really cool one. I love the black label stuff, just really random one-off. The art in this one's kind of funky, a little, I don't know how to describe it, but it's interesting. So I really like that one. I'll be reading both of those and going over them after the fact. But for now, we can start with these 3 that I've read. So the first issue I read this week was the Adventures of Superman, Book of L, number 1. I will start off by saying, just up front, I probably won't be continuing to pick this one up. This is my first standalone Superman comic that I've read. I gotta say, it's a bit much. I was a bit lost. I know there's clearly some context. I think they even directly state what this, continues from. And, it seemed much part of a bigger story. And although you may not need that information to start here and read this, especially with the way the ending kind of goes, it seems they're doing something new. It still felt just like a lot and a bit scattered and all over the place, and not what I was expecting for a first-time Superman comic, as a new-time reader. And not because it's bad or anything. I don't dislike it or think there's anything to knock on it. It's just, as a new reader, it seems, like I said, a lot. And for everything I have to read, I would rather save money and put it elsewhere than pick something up that didn't grip me on this first issue, which is why I collect the first issues. So, to go over it briefly, there's this guy, Krillux. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Krill-Ux, whatever. He is collecting these god aspects, which give him some crazy powers. We cut to Superman at his home with his family, kids, parents, stuff like that. And all of a sudden we find out there's an attack happening across the planet in a few different set locations, but specifically here at Superman's home, there's like an invasion that breaks out immediately. And the people who are invading are from this planet where Krillux came from, I think, or has something to do with. All of a sudden, this dude, seemingly with all the god aspects, or some of them, I don't know, he's on the hunt for the god aspects, and he shows up and threatens Superman's family, and Superman takes the bait, and Krillux sends him to the future. Just says long time from now. And all of a sudden we get like 2 pages and Superman's in the future, and we find out he has descendants. What was it? Rowan and Ronan, I think. But anywho, Superman's just in the future all of a sudden. So we're like at home, the world is under attack, these people show up, Superman is being threatened, and all of a sudden he just gets sent to a whole new timeline where there's something else happening, and we have new characters, a new story that I have no context to. Once again, I don't know if there is supposed to be context or if this is supposed to be something entirely new. I'm assuming it's entirely new, but I gotta say I'm not super interested in looking to see a made-up Superman future where his descendants are under attack and have some new issues going on. I want to be in the present where, the attack was happening. I guess this is the future where we see way down the line, I don't even know how far in the future this is, but way down the line, the effects of once he vanished or disappeared, maybe. I'm not too sure. We get a bit of context here. A lot of the issue is written in like journal entries, and we get this big exposition of journal entries. This page from Kara Zor-El, day 16 of occupation and day 31 of occupation, as in when their planet was invaded, I guess. So after that, we have On Smallville and the Planter's Life, or no, Fife, recorded by the Chronicler of the House of L, year 956 PAE. I'm not sure what any of this means. Oh, yeah, here, the first line says it right. This is the time of Rowan and Ronan Kent, children of Roland and Sigrid Kent, now aged 20 years, Terran, the niece and nephew of Brandon Kent, the last Superman of Earth. So, I don't know any of these characters. I'm not very familiar. I know Superman, and I feel like there's a lot going on, and it's not going to be a super, like, let's focus on this character. I feel like it's going to be a lot of world building stuff. I don't know. But all that to say, it didn't get me super interested to read anymore. So, yeah, that is the end of that. Like I said, I don't necessarily think it's bad, just not for me and what I'm looking for right now. So, unlike this one, however, one that was a little bit, I guess you could say, as equally overwhelming with information, but in the reverse effect to where I just wanted to keep diving and getting more of it, we have our next issue here. So, as I was saying, on the contrary to what I was just discussing, this X-Men Age of Revelation issue 0 makes me very fearful for my bank account in the future because of all the new titles that are sort of being introduced through this whole series. I thought this was just going to be like a one issue, or not a one issue, but like a single line run of some futuristic X-Men story, but seems like just the gateway into a whole new world they're trying to develop with the X-Men. So, similar to the Superman story, I am a first-time X-Men reader here. This is my first X-Men comic. I'm familiar with the X-Men through basically all other media besides comics, funnily enough. So, games, movies, TVs, what have you. But this one was really cool. I really like this one a lot. There's a lot to unpack as a first-time reader, I felt, because I'm not super familiar with X-Men, especially a lot of the strictly comic characters, not the ones that get a lot of screen time, you could say. But yeah, this one did have some similarities. I read it back to back with the Superman, and there's just interesting pieces that I kept thinking of. So, like, the way both of them kind of felt so information heavy, and I guess the Superman one's not as information heavy as this one is, but something about the way this one was laid out and the way it was presenting me information as a new reader, I found to just follow a lot better, and it was more interesting to me as like a first issue and a setup for the world we're building. Whereas Superman, it felt like I was just kind of being thrust into a scenario, and I'm from the character's POV, and I have no idea what's happening in the current time. This is events being recounted from the future, I believe 10 years into the Age of Revelation, which I'll get into, by our lead, I'm guessing lead character / narrator for this issue. And basically we're seeing panels and the events that are occurring, but it's being told to us from someone, who's already gone through these things and experienced them. So it just felt a lot easier to follow for that reason. So as I was saying, we kind of have our lead character maybe / narrator for this issue, who is named Shen Zorn. They are were part of the X-Men. They left shortly after Cyclops resigned due to a failed raid, and Juggernaut left after Magic had died, and a couple people were no longer part of the X-Men. Revelation took over. Whose Revelation, you might ask, is what I found myself asking. Revelation is the apparent heir to Apocalypse, and from what I know about Apocalypse, he's like the big bad of the X-Men. From watching the movies and all that, I've seen an Apocalypse. I don't know anything about Revelation, if he's a relatively newer character to the world, or if he's kind of been around, or if this is a different take on an already existing character. But I like what they're doing with him here. So as I was saying, we're 10 years into the Age of Revelation, the Age of Revelation being in reference to this event that occurs. This event starts in Philadelphia in the United States, and something that is dubbed the X virus begins to spread. This virus goes all throughout the land, by that I mean the state, and it's affecting everything, not just people. It's affecting people, the terrain, I'm assuming like wildlife and stuff, but everything is being infected by this X virus, and the majority of people and things are dying. It is a fatal virus. However, the ones that are surviving are now being mutated. So the X-Men is tasked with relief efforts. They show up to take care of the situation in whatever ways. They don't really give information, but what ends up happening is our team of X-Men led by Revelation sort of become heroes of this land, which of course they're, heroes already to begin with, but more in like a messiah way, I believe is actually the word they use. Revelation quickly became a kind of messiah to this new population of mutants. So what was once, hey, let's take care of this X virus and recover Philadelphia, slowly become, or I shouldn't even say slowly, but quickly becomes this sort of land of mutants, a free range home for mutants and mutant kind, and the X-Men Revelation are no longer fighting the efforts to relieve them of this virus, but in fact to let it continue to do its thing and spread, because this land belongs to mutants now. They own it, they rule it. So what does the government do once they find out that they have no control and they are driven to the point of making a decision based on fear? You can see right here, there is a missile that ends up being dropped on the mutants at their new home here. So what happens is Revelation has one of his men teleport the bomb or the missile, and it lands directly in DC. So that is the aftermath. That is, or was, Washington DC. As it says here, the United States never fully recovered. So who knows what kind of implications that has for the rest of the country, but we know at least now we are in the land of Revelation, the Age of Revelation. We are 10 years into this timeline where the X virus is spreading and Revelation is ruling these lands. And the last bit of information we get here at the end of the issue, we see our narrator Shen is, like I said, 10 years into the future now. It's this Age of Revelation. Revelation's ruling, and he wanders into this cave room, whatever little hideout, where we have a new X-Men team being formed. It is sort of like a ragtag group of X-Men, a couple familiar faces here, including Cyclops. Cyclops is also making mention here that they're going to be looking for a younger Cyclops to help, and I guess specifically they don't really go into too much details other than Revelation has a really bad and a really dark secret that they are on path to reveal to whoever, I guess, to mutants, to the world, to not sure who, but Revelation's hiding something and they're going to uncover it. So as I said, it's kind of a lot of information, but I feel like it's laid out really well. I didn't feel too lost. I kind of went back and forth between a couple pages here and there, but not in a way that I couldn't grasp it. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding things. And there was some really striking moments, specifically the crater. This I remember being really floored, and it kind of made me pause and think about reality. If something like this were to happen, I don't know how we would function. So it's really cool for a superhero storyline, I think, and to set up the a new set of stakes, because it's one thing superheroes versus bad guys, whatever, and there's always not that humans can do anything to fight this, but there's always the government being involved and stuff like that, as we know a lot of Civil War stories and stuff with Marvel. But this is kind of it's just the mutants now. Whatever's left of humanity, I guess they're fending for themselves. So it's really cool. There's a lot they're gonna get into, which, as we can see coming up here, I was reading the little note and stuff at the end, and I flipped the page and my jaw kind of dropped, because I was like, this shit's insane. What? But I guess these are all the new titles that are being introduced with the Age of Revelation. So I was looking online at my comic shop and stuff like that, and I already saw a couple of these are up for the final call. I think Iron and Frost I saw. There was the Sabretooth here, Laura Kinney Sabretooth, Rogue Storm, And then there's one even down here, just X-Men Book of Revelation. So yeah, it seems like they're doing a lot. They're trying to make a whole world, a whole timeline out of this badass Wolverine on the back here. This wraparound, by the way, but just super cool issue for, once again, a first time X-Men reader. I felt this kind of did the opposite of the Superman, where I was like, that's just stuff I don't want to get into. This felt like a super cool, unique twist on what I was already familiar with the X-Men. So really like this one a lot. I will be looking into more of this, assuming it keeps continuing, especially a lot of the other runs that are coming out with it. I don't know specifically if I'll be looking into all of those. That seems like a lot, so we'll see. I'll probably pick and choose a couple here and there as they come out. But yeah, that's that for now. On to the next. Alright, I've been feeling like I was ranting a little bit long. I probably could have made a video alone about just that one, so I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet for this one, because I'll be honest, I don't have much to say other than a really cool, really great issue for a first-time Thor reader. As same as everything else here, as we'll continue on the channel, this is going to be my first time reading a lot of these heroes' lines. This is my first time reading Thor. I've always been a fan of Thor, not just Marvel, but like of Norse mythology specifically. I've done a lot of studying of, so there's a lot of cool things in here with just the characters and like stuff they use, like runes, a lot of the Thurizaz rune. There's a lot of really cool things in here that are included if like you just kind of have, you know, some basic knowledge of Norse mythology and history and stuff. But even without it, it's still really, really great for just a basic Marvel fan. So it kind of starts, we've got this guy named Sigurd. He is just seemingly your average dude. He lives at home, or like an apartment, and works in the city. He is some type of handyman, construction worker. He's putting hammer there in the bag. He's just working. He's got his apartment neighbor here. They're walking down the street together. They bump into a familiar face here. Sigurd starts to speak in his native tongue, and we kind of get the impression here that this character is Loki, I'm assuming, but that this character has some knowledge that Sigurd does not. And like I said, Sigurd is just a normal guy. It's not Thor that we know of, but this character, who I'm assuming Loki, seems to know that this is Thor potentially, and that like he has knowledge of whatever this situation is that Thor does not have knowledge of, basically, if that makes sense, hopefully. So yeah, he's just walking, he's talking to Loki and stuff. He's on the way to work. He ends up getting to this job site, and he finds out that they are strike breakers, as in, you know, people to break up this protest for whatever company it is that he was supposed to be working and building for. This company's kind of got the thugs with them. They're the ones wearing the Thurizaz rune, the rune of Thor, and the boss, Thor kind of like tells off the boss. He's like, I'm not doing this. I say Thor. Sigurd kind of tells off the boss and leaves the sites, and the boss is like, all right, y'all boys will take care of him, whatever. So the thugs are like, all right, we're gonna take these guys out. Anywho, Sigurd walking home from this. He's in the rain. It's storming out, apparently, it seems. And these guys try to beat him up and kill him. They start to strangle him. They pull a knife on him. This is when I was kind of shocked, because I'm not a huge Marvel reader in terms of comics. All my comic experience until recently has been DC comics, and I know DC has never been one to stray from some visually graphic material. However, I know with a lot of Marvel content that I've consumed, they're usually more on the PG family-friendly side. That's when I was surprised when I got to this page, because like Sigurd's fighting these dudes, and then he pulls out his hammer, and he's just bashing their heads in. This whole guy's face gets caved in by the hammer. Other guy's like, you know, pissed off, goes to attack him. He about near like takes this guy's whole head off. Just like hits him in the side of it, like breaks it like a 90-degree angle. Last guy here on the last page begging for his life, and Sigurd kind of threatens him, tells him, that Thor is coming, basically, and all this lightning, thunder strikes around him. So, a really cool issue. It's just some dude, whether or not he is Thor in a disguise, I'm not sure. That's what it kind of seems like. Him and Loki are both like human personas or disguises that they've got on, and I don't know where it's gonna go from. I don't know if it's some big grand story or if we're being like very down to earth with Thor, and I don't mean like in a nice way, but in a scale in terms of the story. So I'm curious. I really like this one. Like I said, I wasn't expecting the brutal, gruesome action at the end, but for a first-time Thor issue, I was pleasantly surprised. So I'll probably be picking up the next issue of this. All right. So now that we're done reviewing things I've already read, we're going to be reading and discussing these last two issues here. I think I'm going to be starting with the Superman, just because we've already been going over some superhero content. I'll save Razor X for the end. Let's get going. That's a good frame right there. I like that image. Alright, well, that concludes Superman Kryptonite Spectrum issue 2. This one is a lot of fun. I am liking this a lot for DC Black Label stuff. Even for, once again, someone who hasn't read Superman stuff, I think this is really cool. I really love the art, for one. I think this is the same person who does, is it like the Ice Cream Man or something like that? I want to say some type of ice cream series under DC. I want to say it's like the same. Oh, it says it literally right at the top. Apologies from Ice Cream Man, indeed, from the team behind Ice Cream Man. Okay, so yeah, art style is very like uncanny feeling, but I really like it a lot. Even with like Crypto, who is in here, it's really funny. But there's so many good images and just little things that I like about the visuals. Really love this of Superman sitting in the fortress after he grew and it broke. To go over real quick, Kryptonite Spectrum, for those who don't know, basically there are 4 kinds of kryptonites. There's like green, red, black, and yellow, and they all have an effect on Superman. Different effects that he is aware of, and weaknesses, I guess you could say. And in this issue 1, he discovers like a meteorite or something from space that includes 4 new kryptonites he is not familiar with. Purple kryptonite, cobalt, speckled, and rainbow kryptonite were the 4 new kryptonites. So the first issue was the purple, which messed with Superman's how should I say, his like understanding and perception of time. So things were happening all out of order. In the comic, it was really cool. It was panel by panel. We were watching him fight Solomon Grundy in the city, except like each panel was out of order. So we were seeing different events happen randomly. And then you flip the page and he's in his like mind palace, and you see the big sheet of everything that happens in order when he figures it out. And it was a cool fight. He sends Solomon Grundy into space. Hey, we figured out what purple kryptonite does, and we beat it. So they saved. We're all good to go on to the next one, which is cobalt kryptonite, which, as you can see, makes Superman quite giant compared to the other heroes down here. This panel, or this page, was also really cool when I got to it. But basically, we're set up immediately from the first page. Superman is destroying, rampaging Metropolis. Wonder Woman, Batman, Green Lantern, a couple different people are here. Shazam is supposed to be here. He's not. That's kind of immediately what they throw you into is city's under attack, Superman's going crazy. What happened? And then all of a sudden it jumps back. He's back at the fortress with Batman testing out the new kryptonite. That's when they find out what happens with the cobalt in that frame of him busting out of the fortress because he grew too big. He decides to go to Metropolis to tell everyone what's going on. Batman goes to contact Lois so she can get the news out to people because they don't want them to think that there's some crazy threat that they've detected, some giant monster that is on the planet all of a sudden. He shows up to Metropolis to give his, words, and Lex Luthor decides to not only release a giant cancerous-ridden villain named Chemo, who not only affects humans but superhumans as well. On top of that, he also ends up hitting Superman simultaneously while affected with the giant blue cobalt kryptonite. He hits him with a missile of red kryptonite, which basically turns him angry, evil. He starts wreaking havoc on the city, which we saw in the beginning, because humans don't deserve the planet. They're destroying it. It's polluted, what have you. So Batman's counter to this was to use the the speckled kryptonite, which is one of the 4 new kryptonites, and he creates this weapon here so that he can shoot Superman with the speckled kryptonite, because it's, when he studied it and compared its like molecules to the cobalt one, it was like the opposite. So seemingly, if the blue one the cobalt makes him big, then the speckled one should shrink him, which, cool, we're making a weapon to shrink him, should hopefully do the job. That's when he gets hit by the red kryptonite. He starts wreaking havoc, and all the other heroes here try to show up and help. Superman, here's where we get that page. That's a cool one. "Be afraid," says Superman as he begins to destroy his home city. So yeah, a lot of fun in this one. It's a lot of him just, causing mayhem, and then he finally gets hit by the speckled kryptonite cannon that Batman fires at him. He shrinks back down to normal, except Chemo shows up now. So Chemo is here at this bridge. Superman shows up, blasts straight through his head, takes some of his tubes, and begins to drink Chemo. He says, "I'm not going to let Chemo reach the city because he will kill everyone and have who knows what kind of harm and illnesses and mutations and what that might affect." So he decides to sacrifice himself, and he chugs Chemo straight from the source. Immediately everyone shows up to the scene, and they're like, "We have absolutely no idea what kind of effect that's going to have on you, not just because the cobalt kryptonite, the speckled kryptonite, but you just drank Chemo." And then we flip the last page, where we see not only does Shazam make an appearance, however, Superman, much like Shazam, is now a boy. In fact, he is Superboy. We can see in the text down here, cross it out, Superboy. So yeah, next issue we're gonna get, Superman is going to be a child teenager. So really liking the series. It's going a lot quicker, a different pace than I was expecting, which I like a lot, because I was thinking, which I guess it still kind of is, like 1 kryptonite per issue, but this one we used the speckled, which was like the 3rd. So purple we saw in the 1st, and then the issue ended with the cobalt affecting when he grew giant. Here we go on to focus on the cobalt, but the speckled ends up getting introduced and like utilized to solve the situation. So whether the 3rd issue is going to be just the rainbow one, or if similar we're going to introduce other kryptonites like the red one, which is already, or if they're going to end up being even more new ones that show up that we don't even know about yet. So who knows. Like I said, really love the art style. It's a lot of fun, a lot of cool things to do with the Superman issue. I like all the other heroes that are showing up and playing their roles in it as well. It doesn't feel like they're taking away from it or making it too complicated, or it still feels like a Superman comic, especially with all the kryptonite stuff that we're dealing with. So really like that one. We'll be absolutely continuing reading that. So on to our final issue for today. We've got Racer X #1. Let's do it. All right. Well, that concludes Racer X issue 1. I gotta say, I might be more interested in this one than Speed Racer off of the first issue. So they do tie in pretty directly. This one, we get a lot of the past for, we see young Speed and the history between Pops and him, kind of what happened, what broke up their relationship, because he got an offer from the rival, enemy, evil racer crew and he wants to design and race cars and be part of the races and stuff. So he joins them because he's kind of a nobody, and why would I pass up this offer from this elite racing team? And they, not only is he just a racer, but he's kind of a, how should I say, like a puppet in a way. They use him to take out their enemies for real, and he decides he doesn't want to do that. So in his first race, he is tasked with a target to eliminate, and he ends up saving his life, which results in the racing team's first loss in 10 races, which they're not happy about. So come around next race, he goes to race, and what they do is eliminate him. So that's, I guess spoilers for the Speed Racer for those of you who don't know, but his brother is Racer X, which they are not aware of. They all think that he died, which is what the team reported, when in fact they kept him alive and gave him the new identity of Racer X, and he is a getaway driver for them to commit crime, whatever. So he's, decided it's better if he doesn't get involved with Speed and his family, and no one knows he's alive, so that no trouble comes after them. He'll just do what he has to do, and that'll be it. At least they can live out of harm's way. However, it isn't until he sees Speed on the TV, a new racer introduced, and he realizes, he can't continue with the team that he is on and doing the work for them and eliminating drivers, because Speed is out there and that's his priority now. So what he does is, in his getaway, he takes a bunch of money from the mission, just steals the money and leaves his team behind, and he uses the money to design his car that he dubs Shooting Star. So we officially have Racer X, his character's introduction. There's issue 2 covered. As it showed in the beginning, he is kind of going over with his narration too. He wants to design cars, which designing is the big leagues, as Pop says, racers make headlines, designers make history. So he wants to design his own car, to race with it. Like I said, he gets that deal and all this stuff happens, but at the end, he ends up designing his own ride. He's kind of his own man now, going out on his own mission. Like I said, Speed is kind of the new priority. So I really like the setup for this one. It kind of covers you up. I was thinking the Speed Racer issue eventually, whenever it gets to the reveal, that we were going to be getting all of this backstory then, but I like that they're kind of giving this its own issue so we can have the back and forth, focus on Speed, focus on Racer X. And it also seems like we've got Speed Racer Tales from the Road. Sorry, I'm not trying to drop this. So we got Speed Racer number 1, Racer X number 1, and then Speed Racer Tales from the Road number 1 that says it's supposed to come out October 2025. So it seems like they're doing a lot with Speed Racer. As I said, I already have issue 1 and 2 of Speed Racer. I really like it. I think I might like this even more just off this one issue. So we'll continue to see what they do from there, because I've been really enjoying it. So that wraps up all of today's issues that I wanted to read and discuss and go over. Thank you so much for hanging around. Stay tuned for tomorrow, because tomorrow is Wednesday, and not just any Wednesday. It is Batman Day. It is a big day. I've got a lot of things to pick up. I'm not going to lie, I purchased a lot of covers. There's also a lot of new things that I want to go and pick up as well, just off the shelf that I think is coming out. However, because it is Batman Day, I have been holding off, and I will finally be catching up on these issues. Give me 1 second. So I've got a couple issues here. I've been holding off on these. I've been saving them for Batman Day because it's coming up tomorrow. So we've got Immortal Legend Batman. I've been holding on to this one. I'm very excited to read it. Seems like a unique new take on Batman. So we'll see how that one goes. After that, we've got Absolute Batman issue 12, because of course I need to know what happens next. Very excited for this one. Very much looking forward to this. Can't wait to read it. But the one I've been dying to read the most, that's been the toughest to hold out on, is Matt Fraction Batman issue 1. I have been dying for this one. So stay tuned. All of these will be coming for a special Batman Day video tomorrow. Thank you so much again for watching. Please leave a comment, like, subscribe. I would love to talk with you guys about anything I just read, anything coming up. So yeah, once again, stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.